Good afternoon and welcome into the Weather Now Kentucky channel, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook joining us here live. We do have an update for you regarding of course, the winter storm that's ongoing right now. Many folks are already over a half foot of snow. Some folks will go above a foot of snow. Some folks will have a crippling ice event set up over the next several hours. And some folks will go all up to 45 degrees in Kentucky. Welcome to wintertime in the bluegrass. All right, we have a lot of things to get into here. Of course, as we always ask before we start diving into the information, if you would not mind, tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen there. That gets this video out on your newsfeed so that your friends and family can view it. Also helps us share our information around to the different communities here in the state. So thank you so much for your help with that. We appreciate everyone that shares the broadcast, everyone that likes and comments as well and asks those questions. Thank you guys very much. Say hello as you're coming in so I can greet you. As always, we'll give it about 60 to 90 seconds before we start going into the information. Allow everyone time to get in here and settle in that once the information, we'll get it to them that way. We're also going to have a special broadcast somewhere around the 6 o'clock hour where we're going to feature different emergency departments throughout the state, potentially Jefferson County, Hardin County, and Grayson County. And even just having those three counties on board will allow you to see what's going on throughout different portions of the state. And get an understanding of what we're dealing with here. Okay. Good. Okay. Sorry, I saw something in the bottom right portion of my screen I had to verify real quick. So once again, if you're just not tuning into the broadcast, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. And again, we do have an update for you regarding the obviously winter event that we're seeing now. Sorry, I changed the sound system there. We do have the potential for up to about 3/4 of an inch of ice for some locations. We posted about it here a little bit ago. We'll dive into more of that information now. So you're talking about a scenario where some portions of Kentucky will end up with a foot of snow. Some portions of Kentucky will end up with 5 to 8 inches of snow and then a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice on top of that. And places like Bowling Green, who are now under a winter storm warning for the amount of sleet and ice accumulation that they've already had there this morning. Again, a lot of things are changing here, as you can tell, and we said that would happen with an event like this. You have Gulf warmth, polar air, 4 different precip types, 2 low pressures coming together. There is so much variability to this, which is why we keep giving you constant updates here. So once again, once we get to about 75 shares, which we have almost 700 people in here, so I'm sure that won't take very long. That's usually about the time I know when it's time to roll into the information. We'll show you our latest forecast. It hasn't really changed too much, but we'll go over all the information on the model data. Again, we'll look at all the cameras. Power outages are starting to come in to effect here. So lots of different things to look at here. All right, sorry, I was checking my phone there for a second. Let's go ahead and get started on things here. Again, thank you everyone tuning in. We appreciate you guys for trusting W&K throughout an event like this. Let's go ahead and get the information pulled up here. So, new model runs coming in now. Kind of want to show you the current radar first and where we're sitting at, so on and so forth here with temperatures and in regards to radar. So I want to zoom in here, obviously, to our Kentucky state here. And I'm going to show you just the strength of the precipitation first, and then we'll go to precipitation type. All right. So some lightning showing up out in western Kentucky. We did mention that this was absolutely a possibility. Again, when we have lift to occur, which is those 2 low pressures coming close together, we have that storm lifting. When that does occur, you usually get lightning as a result. And that lightning is traveling all the way up into Missouri, St. Louis, western Kentucky, and will travel to the east. So we've already seen, and we will continue to see multiple reports of thunder snow, of thunder sleet, of thunder freezing rain. All right? Doesn't mean it's severe, right? The temperature's 30 degrees outside. But it does indicate some heavier precipitations, all right? Again, heavier precipitation ongoing, some dry slots in between the action here. That was absolutely expected. You guys remember us saying we will have dry slots. This is not going to be a continuous event. The only problem is that technically we're under a dry slot here a little bit in Ratcliffe, and I look outside my house and I still see a freezing drizzle. That's where the concern is really starting to rise. That freezing drizzle, it's not usually kind to us. If it is going to freezing rain, we want that rain to absolutely pour down to the ground. We do not want the freezing drizzle. All right, the freezing drizzle is a lot softer. It's a lot lighter. It can stick to power lines and trees a lot easier and cause a lot more issues than what we're already seeing. Our precipitation type here, you can see it's quite the mix across all of Kentucky at this point. Up there in the northeastern portion of the state, or the northern portion of the state up here toward, let's say, Florence to Dry Ridge, to Mount Olivet, Owenton, Campbellsburg, so on and so forth to Carrollton. That should be mostly snow and about maybe 10% of sleet. South of that, Lexington, Louisville, I believe I've seen reports over the last 35 minutes or so that you are now starting your transition to sleet. Again, it'll be a slow transition, then all of a sudden it'll be sleet and freezing rain. That's just how it's going to go. It's how it's been for everywhere else. Richmond has been a big snow getter today. There's always one or two counties somewhere in central Kentucky that for some reason it just stays snowier than it should, and it looks like Richmond's getting in on that action today, as well as some portions of Hardin County. I did see reports out of Louisville, southern portions of Louisville, that have seen already 8 inches of snowfall out of this, and so on and so forth. Down here to the south, along the parkways, as you can see here, where this heavier, kind of darker precip is, this is mostly freezing rain and some sleet, but mostly freezing rain. So Stanford to Campbellsville to Litchfield, Beaver Dam over to Henderson, Kentucky, Evansville, folks over here in western Kentucky. The freezing rain and the regular rain line is still in southwestern Kentucky. This line should have already been up toward Madisonville, Morgantown, and Horse Cave by now. According to all model data, this line should have been pushing up, and up over the last couple of hours. We told you guys this 12 to 4 p.m. time frame would be absolutely critical to understanding what's going on here. And what we're seeing is the upper layers of the atmosphere are remaining a little bit colder. They're not under freezing, but they're remaining cold enough to support, they're remaining cold enough to kind of hold off the warm air advection that we should be seeing. So the result of that is freezing rain. All right. So again, that line should be all the way up here. We just had 3 new lightning strikes show up as we're talking, by the way, up here toward Henderson, Sabri, and north into Indiana. So lightning is still abundant throughout all western portions of the Kentucky area and going into the Indiana area. So thunder, sleet, thunder, freezing rain, so on and so forth, can indicate a brief spell of some very, very heavy precipitation. All right. So the concern is quickly rising for freezing rain. Earlier this morning, we had the feeling that it might not be as bad. The problem is, though, the southern mode. So again, we're not just looking at Kentucky here, folks. When we're working, we're looking everywhere. The southern mode down here, I want to show you in Arkansas, Mississippi. Not a whole lot of precip going on there. So that means only one thing. That precip is getting kicked up toward Kentucky. We still on model data, and I'll show you the model data just after I show you this radar. We still have about another inch to inch and a half of liquid to go. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but for example, an inch of liquid in the wintertime can equal up to 10 inches of snow on a regular scale. So there is still quite the bit of precip to go. Now, again, we're not going to see that as all snow. We'll see that mostly as freezing rain. And that's why the concern is quickly rising for places just south of the I-64 corridor. I drew it on the map and posted it on the page, but I'll draw it again here for you. For those of you that may not have seen it, the concern is quickly rising for ice accretion and ice accumulation. And I'll pull up the white pin here and scoot this on over. Make sure you can see on this. Okay, you can. From basically just north of the parkways. So right around in Madisonville, just north, up toward Danville, up toward Lexington, just south of the 64 corridor. This little area right here, it would not surprise me if we see several reports of 0.75 inches of liquid or inches of freezing rain. All right. The easiest way to test that, by the way, is if you do go outside and you are curious and you want to just see, you break off a limb from an exterior bush or a tree, and you break that limb off, and you can measure the ring of ice that's sitting on it. That is ice accretion. All right. For example, a half inch of freezing rain is worth hundreds of pounds on power lines. You'll see power lines start to bow out. All right. Problem with that is that behind this system, Monday afternoon, we do see wind gusts kick up to about 20 to 30 mile per hour. The hope is that during the dry slot that we are going to see later on tonight, we will absolutely see a dry slot later on tonight. During that dry slot, the hope is that the wind machine keeps going. However, the model data is telling us that, of course, the wind machine kind of cuts off during the dry slot. All right? Kind of just working out to be an ugly scenario here. So you're talking about places like Radcliffe that's already seen 6 to 6.5 inches of snow throughout portions of the city, with an additional perhaps 3/4 of an inch of ice. You're talking about places like Elizabethtown that's seen a widespread 5 to 6 inches. You're talking about a 3/4 of an inch of ice possible, right? The zone is 0.3 to 0.6. But up to 0.75 is absolutely possible from places like Lexington all the way over toward Morganfield and just to the south there and just to the north of the parkways. All right, the trend today has been south on that low pressure. And we told you that could absolutely be the case. The trend today has been south on the low pressure. The low pressure has been weaker, and that has allowed for more cold air to win the battles. I mean, we still have freezing rain and sleet and frozen precipitation ongoing as far south as Hopkinsville, Kentucky, as far south as Somerset, Kentucky. And even into Tennessee, you still see some indications of some freezing rain down there. So the warm air has not been able to win as many of the battles at the ground. It is starting to win the battle above our heads. All right, and what that means is, of course, freezing rain at that point. So that's the radar for you there. Now I want to show you the model data that we've been talking about. Just kind of skip it on back here. So I'm going to zoom it into the local view so you can see the nameplates. Of course, I'm not going to have every city on here, but you should know if you're close to one of these big cities on the map. All right. Advancing this forward, this is valid for right now, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If we compare that to the current radar, it looks pretty good. It shows the dry slot around south central Kentucky. Now, on the model, it's trying to show us that this is sleet occurring in central and western Kentucky. This is not sleet. I'm looking outside, and I can tell you this is freezing rain with some sleet mixed in, but this is mostly freezing rain at this point. All right? So, again, doing pretty good on the placement of the precipitation, but not doing as well on the precipitation type. So, advancing this forward to about 4 p.m. Eastern Time, still sees those a lot of precip ongoing. Again, this will be mostly freezing rain and sleet. And even so, some snow still ongoing from Lexington to Louisville, but we do know that you are starting your transition to sleet right now. We can tell by looking above the air and by the reports that you guys have coming in. We can know that you are starting your transition to sleet right now if you're in Louisville and Lexington. All right, so we don't know at the 4 p.m. hour. Again, the model is showing this would be heavy snowfall at that point. I do think this is probably actually more so sleet and freezing rain at this point. All right. Advancing this forward to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, still an onslaught of precipitation falling. Again, you can start to see for your own eyes why we're getting the concern is rising for that freezing rain. All right, advance this forward to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so on and so forth. The same scenario. 7, 8. All right, and now the model is trying to push regular rain up into the northern Kentucky portions of the area. The problem with that is that this warm line on the surface has not moved. It has not moved. Matter of fact, the temperature in Hardin County is 30 degrees. The temperature in Hardin County 40 minutes ago was 31 degrees. In fact, we have dropped 1 degree. All right? So just use that for example. And if we're looking across southern portions of the state, you're still hovering around the low 30s. I mean, you're just above 1 degree freezing in Todd County. We're at 32.6, right? So if these numbers stay below 32.0, this regular rain that this model is trying to depict would be freezing rain. All right? Advancing this on forward to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, you can still see that along that Elizabethtown city line there to the points north, it's still showing a massive freezing rain there. And this is 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so this is another 6 hours from now. Again, a long duration of this may be setting up. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, same thing. Along that I-64 corridor and just south, and then points to the north, still showing that freezing rain ongoing. On the backside, it's indicating some hints at some freezing drizzle on the backside, which is never a good sign. And 11 p.m. Eastern Time, this is when we should be entering our dry slot, but you can see it's still showing little specks of freezing drizzle throughout portions of the area. And then an onslaught of freezing rain and sleet up here in northern Kentucky. Regular rain down here towards southeastern Kentucky. All right. Advance this forward to the overnight hours. I'm going to stop this at 3 a.m. That low pressure begins to move east. As that drags east, it will begin to strengthen. As it strengthens, it will bring backside snow into Kentucky for tomorrow morning. And at about 3 a.m. Eastern Time, you can see all these little specks of freezing drizzle throughout portions of the I-64 to western Kentucky parkways of Kentucky area. So, again, that leads to the belief that ice accumulations will be higher in that area if we get that freezing drizzle to occur. Freezing drizzle actually occurs or actually accumulates a lot better than freezing rain. All right, because it's not as much of a chance to melt. Advancing this on forward to 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Freezing drizzle and snow now pushing into the western Kentucky portions of the area. Again, reinforcing that idea that the ice accumulations are on the rise. 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern Time, that now scoots back over toward the central Kentucky portions of the area. Freezing drizzle ongoing in Lexington, Mount Olivet, points to the east out here toward Ashland. Oh my goodness, my brain is absolutely blinking right now. Not enough coffee. Wow, Moorhead, there we go. Oh my goodness, I kept wanting to say Muldrow because I live so close to Muldrow. I kept wanting to say that. I'm like, that's not right. Advancing to 9 a.m. Eastern time, you'll see now we kind of transition to more of a snowfall. An additional 1 to maybe 2 inches of snowfall is possible on this backside as that storm advances through. And then by noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time, it's out of central Kentucky. And then by about 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time, it's out of that I-75 corridor. And then by about 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, this storm system has finally exited Kentucky. And that at that point would be a 36-hour event. And the temperatures behind this absolutely do look brutal. For those of you that are asking, here are your temperatures that look like throughout the next 36 hours or so. Again, the model does try to indicate we do go above freezing for those folks in southern Kentucky. But once again, here are the Brownland Parkways, for example, very far southern Elizabethtown or very far southern Harlan County. You're only 1 degree above freezing. So it only takes 1 degree, being colder by 1 degree, and boom, you're right back in that freezing category, right? It does try to keep north central Kentucky into that sub-freezing category, all right? And then as we exit to the east, it does try to show a surge of warm air in Somerset, which again is why you're playing rain at this point in Somerset at 2 a.m. Eastern time on Monday morning. And then on Monday, it absolutely crashes the temperatures down. And once we do get below 25 degrees, a flash freeze does set in at that point. So no matter what's on the ground at that point, no matter what we've melted with salt, no matter what we've done road work wise, again, the salt will work down to 15 degrees. But if you have those winds on top of the 23 to 22 degrees, right? Now you're talking about the refreezing occurring. And also, if we do still have a snowpack on the ground, these temperatures will be colder. These temperatures will be colder than what is shown on this model by a solid 7 to 10 degrees. Okay, so we do know that as an aspect as well. So what you're seeing here on your screen, it might end up being colder than this, and absolutely could be the case. As we go into Monday, we do warm up slightly as that snow and freezing drizzle moves through. And then after that, as soon as that exits, watch the crash down. We just absolutely crash down. And then by Tuesday morning, we are about 10 degrees in Elizabethtown, 8 degrees or so in Louisville, Lexington at 17. And once again, if we get a snowpack on the ground, an ice pack on the ground, you're talking about these temperatures being at least 7 to 10 degrees colder than what's shown, right? So if that were the case, we would take 7 to 10 degrees off of Elizabethtown. Now you're at 2 to 5 degrees, right? So it's an absolute mess ongoing out there. I do want to show you our forecast. By the way, this has not changed, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. If you guys haven't seen this, this is all over our Twitter, our Facebook. Nothing's really changed here. I did up this number. I will be upping this number to 0.25 to 0.75. Kind of gone back and forth on that. At this point, it's kind of just letting the forecast be. I don't want to change it too much. I mean, we're already at 3:30. I should have left it where I had it. But the trends earlier look different than the trends now, and I want to make sure you guys get all the newest information. All right, that's the ice. Here's a snow forecast. So far, so good. Once again, Richmond kind of overperforming this area. In the middle portions of eastern Kentucky, you're overperforming. And we mentioned that would be the case. There was absolutely going to be a couple of counties somewhere in the middle portions of Kentucky that overperformed, that gets more snow because they stayed 1 or 2 degrees colder than what the data indicated. So not a surprise there. Louisville 6 to 10 inches, Lexington at 6 to 10 inches, Moorhead 6 to 10, Ashland at 6 to 10, Radcliffe at 6 to 10, Meade and northern Breckinridge County 6 to 10, and then just to the south of that, Elizabethtown 4 to 7, Owensboro 4 to 7, Danville 4 to 7, so on and so forth. And then you can kind of read them out from there. And again, this is all over our Twitter and Facebook. You can go ahead and see it there as well. So I just wanted to give you a real quick update on this. We will be doing another special broadcast probably around the 6 o'clock hour, where we have different emergency managers from different counties on board here with us, and just kind of giving you the rundown of what we're seeing throughout places, what we can do to help them, so on and so forth. So if you're interested in that broadcast, make sure you follow, turn on notifications both on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll be able to give you guys information on how roads look, on different closings that may occur, so on and so forth, different warming shelters that may be opening up, or warming centers. I gotta make sure I'm doing better about that. Different warming centers that may be opening up, and so on and so forth. I'll get a few questions now. I'm not going to answer every specific city and county, guys. We've spent the last week forecasting this. If you don't know what your forecast is by now, Lord help you. I love you guys to death, but Lord help you. Lisa Smith says, is Richmond included in that concern area, or are we outside of it? You should be just to the south of it. So you've had mainly snow, so you should be just to the south of the concern area, but you still will have ice accumulations. Well, Caitlin, you got to remember, so again, just because not much more would happen, you still have all that ice already on the ground, and even if it's melted right now, when you do drop below that 25 degrees, it will flash freeze. So I do agree with them extending that winter storm warning all the way down there. Crystal, I think that's a good question. I think everyone in central Kentucky, northeastern Kentucky, and northwestern Kentucky should absolutely prepare for some power outages, if not widespread. By the way, here are the current power outages throughout Kentucky. We are seeing them begin to actually climb pretty rapidly out there in western Kentucky, and we know that central and eastern Kentucky got hit harder. So, again, we do expect numerous power outages to occur. I know you guys can't see this. Hang on. Let me go to the full display here. Here you're currently 9,000 without power out in western Kentucky. And now, again, we do expect this to grow. The power outage number is starting to grow in Hardin County. You can see that little shade there of about 650 people out. I know that number is higher, and I know that number will grow throughout a large portion of Kentucky. So I try not to forecast power outages. I just say the possibility is absolutely there when you're dealing with freezing drizzle, when you're dealing with snow, very wet snow, by the way. Sitting on those power lines, you get the flash freeze to occur. A lot of folks have been below freezing. A lot of folks went well below freezing while that snowfall was occurring earlier. You absolutely have the potential for widespread, if not numerous, power outages. Mods, can we take care of that, please? We're talking about snow here. I don't know why we got to bring politics into this crap. What is with our population's obsession with like comparing everything to politics? I don't understand it. I'm just going to mute it for 15 minutes. People are so weird, man. Sorry. Ice accumulation for Frankfurt. Once again, I do think you're in that highest zone there, 0.25 to 0.75 inches. All those forecasts are on our pages. School possibilities this week. I do not tell schools what to do. I do not get into that game. If they request information, I do provide that information that they request. I do not tell them what decision to make. But if it were me and I was running a school system, especially in central and northeastern and northwestern Kentucky, there likely would not be a whole lot of school going on this week at all. Yes, Ashlyn, he is actually getting a nap in right now. Is this weekend going to look like today? We haven't honestly begun to even break down this weekend system. We really it's been a full force on this one. It's been a full force, all hands on deck on this one. Are we going to need more snow here in Runnymede? There is potential for backside snow tomorrow morning. As for tonight, no. It would likely be sleet or freezing rain that falls throughout major portions of Kentucky. Zach, that's how it goes, man. When you're dealing with that, I can't tell you guys enough. When you're dealing with that Gulf warmth, and you're dealing with that polar air, tornadoes spawn to the south, windstorms spawn to the south, ice storms and snowstorms and sleet storms and everything in between spawns to the north. It is definitely a challenge to forecast systems like this, and every time we get one, we learn so much from it. George for president? Oh my goodness, no. I've had several people ask me to run for city council, and I don't even want to do that. So I don't think I will ever have any ambition for that. Thank you, though. It's been very quiet in McCreary. Alicia, thank you for the update there. On YouTube, Raylan says in Bowling Green, Kentucky, there were a few branches falling and everything is iced. Yeah, and you know, I know they prepped it with brine down there. I know they've been salting it, and we're still having ice issues. So if you're in an area in Kentucky that has not been hit by very much ice so far, all you have to do is not look very far away. Look to Western Kentucky, look to Southern Kentucky, and you can kind of see what's coming. Yeah, so Don, that's a great question. It's always been my advice in situations like this where we constantly flip back and forth between different precipitation types to wait to shovel. A lot of folks want to get that snow off the driveway, make it look nice and pretty, but the snow on the driveway will actually help you to avoid the freezing rain to getting all the way down to your actual driveway surface. This is why I've been harping, and I know we can't do it as a state and so on and so forth, to not plow, because you kind of have to. But if you are in charge of residential or commercial area, do not shovel the pavement. All right, that snow will actually help to avoid that ice from the freezing rain actually touching the surface. Now, it will obviously make the snow a lot harder, and you will still get that ice on top, but it will be easier to plow as much of it as you can off, and then tomorrow morning you can clean it up, plow it off, shovel it off, whatever it might be, and then throw your salt down. All right. And then you hope that tomorrow, while the sun is out somewhat, even though it really won't because the clouds will be there, you really hope that at that point, that radiation or that heat absorbs some of that moisture. Sarah, thank you for the update there. I appreciate that. Krista, I believe your chances are up to about 0.4 to 0.5 inches. You've been winning out on the snow up there, which definitely lowers the snow or the freezing rain rate. Yeah, that's always been my advice. Now, obviously, if it's just plain snow or sleet, you can shovel whenever you like. But when it comes to flipping back and forth between precip types, it's always been my findings that if you leave the snow there, of course, if you don't have to go anywhere, if you have to go somewhere and you have to shovel to get out, of course you have to do that. That's why we have to plow the roads, right? But if you don't have to leave the snow on the ground. It will act like a little bit of a protective blanket, if you will, for the actual real surface of your driveway. And then once it's all said and done, then you go shovel and throw the salt down. Marjorie, for the most part, we will still have freeze and drizzle when that wind is occurring, but for the most part, the heavy stuff will be done. No, Amy, again, you're probably just in a lull right now. Again, we said there will be several drought slots throughout the day. This is not going to be, even though it's a 36-hour event, you're not going to see activity for the entire 36-hour window. For example, we had about a 20 to 30-minute break of freezing rain a short while ago, and I look outside now, and it's definitely freezing drizzle occurring here in Radcliffe. So you're going to have breaks in between. This is not going to be in every second of the 36-hour window that you're going to see activity. Cheryl, thank you for that update there. I appreciate you. Yes, Benito, you're in that place where we expect 8 to 12 inches of snow to occur, so you will absolutely pick back up. Of snow and sleet combined. Let me make that clear. Amanda, anywhere between a quarter to 3/4 of an inch of ice. And again, it's a range, guys. Don't hear the 3/4 and absolutely freak out. I mean, obviously you want to prepare. Your preparation should already be done. But again, it is a range for a reason. All right, we're starting to get to a lot of the specific cities and stuff. I promise you guys, all that information is all over our pages. I'm going to start prepping for our next broadcast tonight, where we're going to have different emergency managers from different counties throughout the state on with us here. Samantha, with your 1,000 stars, thank you so much for your kindness and your generation there, or kindness. And, oh my goodness, I've got to get a Monster popped. I got to get a Monster popped. My brain is fried. I have probably done more math in the last 24 hours than I would care to admit. And I think it's just absolutely wrecked my brain. It feels like mush up there right now. Anytime I go to think of a word, it's just like gone. So, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Again, all the information for those of you asking about specific locations and whatnot, that's all over our pages on both Twitter and Facebook. You can find all that information on that social media. You can also find it by rewatching this broadcast back whenever you like. Generosity, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love winter, but these events are, again, some of the hardest to forecast, and you're almost always going to be wrong somewhere with an event like this. So, that said, I'll sign off for this one for now. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Until next time, stay safe, friends.